Okay. So, since it's a pub and you pointed out stuff about aim, that's kind of like the main sort of thing that I felt like keep my eye open for at first. But do you have anything else? Any
Um,
any questions or whatever or thoughts you want to like introduce or go over?
hmm, not too much. I do know that like the stuff that I did send you, um, I believe it was still with my sister and my one buddy abiding. He's been playing Warzone a lot and hasn't been really on Apex, so he's just getting back into the vibes of Apex and stuff like that. So we're still working out, our team play and stuff like that. And we're just, it was his first day yesterday, so that's why, our comms are all just, fun and games and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But when we're taking fights, we're trying to get into that fight mode, right? But
So you're not quite in like the things aren't really like automatic or anything.
yeah,
Kind
not
of
right
kind of
now,
a
not
rusty sort
no.
of environment in terms of like team play.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
me and my sister, uh, we're still going strong. We're still doing all right, but the Octane here on our team, he used to team up with us quite a bit back when we first started, and kind of dropped off for the last like little while. So we're just trying to get him back into the team and
Hmm.
hanging out and stuff like that.
Yeah. Get back into the groove. Nothing
Yeah,
to really be overthought. Just get get back into it, I guess.
yeah, just trying to get the feel for everything again.
Okay. Um. All right. So basically, you have like nothing that really sticks out. No questions except just that small fact, right?
Oh, that's futuristic.
And I don't
I
think that's
like
gonna
that
be
one.
much of a influence. So
Yeah, pretty well, cause like I've noticed a lot of like for my movement and stuff overall. I've been trying to like subconsciously more like just kind of like widen my view of when I'm moving around,
mhm.
kind of like making almost like shortcuts, you know, by just constantly like keep running and figuring out where I can cut so that way I can move faster and rotate quicker and not so much like leave my team behind, but make sure that we're getting to where we need to go
Mhm.
without any distractions, right?
Yeah, that's good.
Like my octane here,
Kind of what we talked about last
I don't,
time.
yeah, yeah, I've been just kind of chilling.
How
I've actually had,
has? Sorry, continue.
I've actually had teammates in the last 3 days, quite a few teammates actually. Oh, hey man, I love your name, and they're just like in ranked, and we just completely vibe and shit like that, and
Yeah, yeah.
just have a good time trying to get the dub. So
Cool. So before I go to I mean, I don't know how deep I'll go into this. Who knows? Tell me like what your experience is with the things that I have you focusing on. So basically,
so basically, it's almost like I'm not focusing. It's kind of almost automatic. Like the guys that you gave me to watch, the one
mhm.
that I really like actually is Zach Mazer.
Yeah.
Um I was watching a few of his streams there, and you know, I'm not trying to like be objective or anything towards like his gameplay or like just trying to learn anything,
Mhm.
but Man, when I tell you, I was watching when I was watching him, and him clipping kids with nades is just something else. Like I
So
got so amped up just
how how
watching him
how does
play. It was
it?
ridiculous.
Okay, all right. It kind of answered my question already, but that's good. That's perfect.
I don't know. It's a lot better, I guess, and way more fun if I don't try to find things to learn. It's more of just like it's kind of like just vibing the entire time,
Yeah, and just forgetting about
chilling out.
everything except the game.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
And I find that he like makes it like his gameplay is like on that level where it's just like holy shit. Like
yeah,
it just makes you kind of go like damn.
yeah. It's like really really impressive. Yeah, and like seeing his approach when it's something that's different from your previous approach, and you see how it works. It's really that's kind of what I typically call like a green light, is like seeing someone who's clearly very fucking good do something that is so contradictory to how you think things should be done, or just different to how you normally would approach things. It makes you realize like the potential, and how
Hmm.
like it's one thing to be told that it's okay to do something. It's another thing to see a pro player of the highest level do it themselves, because that makes it so you get so much validation and security in that decision. You know what I mean? Is that
Yeah.
is that kind of part of the experience?
Yeah, it's like even like on his mess ups and stuff like that, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
he's just like, "Oh, it's whatever it is. It's chill. Like it's all good." Right? And like he knows like he's got teammates that'll help back him up and stuff like that. So he just kind of sits in the moment with it and just like, gives call outs to his teammates as best as he can, and then just, his team either shits on them or they rotate out or whatever, and he gets up with them so that way he can get rezzed or whatever, right? Like it's all an experience.
Yeah, yeah. It seems like a more fluid. Like,
Yeah.
yeah. Another pro that has said a little bit about like stuff that kind of is parallel to this, what you're saying, is Lou. Might have recommended him before. I didn't, but like I think I talked about him maybe. But Lou is another pro that kind of has this parallel approach to where he says like, yeah, before he thought about the game way too much, but he realizes now it's not that deep, and he just plays the game. And he doesn't worry about much. He just plays. It seems like people kind of get to that point really later on, because people are typically trying to cut every corner to get better, when that's not really, you can't really cut corners to get better. And the
Yeah.
action of cutting corners actually slows you down. So if you were to try to cut a corner, the best way to do it would be to not cut a corner. So yeah, I would say, yeah, you can watch Lou too, but in general, it's just really good that you're understanding this stuff on like a kind of a fundamental level. Like the way you're explaining it kind of points out that like you understand it. It's not something that you've been told is right. It's just something you're kind of starting to get a feel for from your experience of like watching these players.
Yeah, the biggest thing too is like you watch like I don't know, you probably don't watch them, but like there's a bunch of like influencers and streamers and stuff like that on TikTok. Like I said, I
Mm-hmm.
used to watch like a crap ton of them, right?
Yeah,
Just because like I'm not going on YouTube and I wasn't constantly going on Twitch and like trying to find like, the best of the best, right? It's
yeah.
just kind of guys that like they had
Entry.
their own play style and it would like kind of like contradict my own shit, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or they're like too ragey or whatever, right? But then there's these guys that are like, well, we're at this level, so we're gonna give you advice for here. And then there's like all these like different debates that they like to post about like mouse and key versus controller and
Mm-hmm.
like the movement fundamentals and like the aim assist bullshit and all this kind of stuff, right? And it just kind of like makes your head spin after a while.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of like unnecessary. I'm finding out now like there's a lot of unnecessary information that they're trying to give you or like it's in their experience, but what works for them won't work for a lot of lower level people that are just coming up and trying to actually learn the game and have fun with it.
Yeah, it's nuance.
Like it's kind of more like they're trying to give you a strict regimen when like you can't really have a strict regimen if you're just starting out. Like you can get
Hmm.
like the basic skills and stuff like that, but having something so strict just kind of
Limits you.
cramps your gameplay, I
Yeah,
guess.
limits you, and like, what's the best conducive play style to learning? It's like probably just having fun. Like I think having fun is a instinctual mechanism to make you learn,
Yeah,
right? Otherwise, things wouldn't be fun. Like if you look at a cat, like how is it that a cat finds rodents? One of the ways that cats find rodents is they don't actually think about it. They just really enjoy going into small spaces like boxes and little things, and that's how they've been designed to survive. And it's kind of the same way with us learning. It's like if you just go with the flow and do what you feel like doing, you're going to learn really fast because that's how our brains have survived for so long. That's how they
yeah.
design fun. Fun has to do with challenge and learning new things and like pushing yourself to the limit at like an appropriate level, you know?
It's kind of like when you're a kid and you're learning to skateboard,
Mm-hmm.
you see somebody older than you doing all these really cool skateboard tricks and they're willing to teach you, but it's through something that you're actually like enjoying, right? Like there's some sort of it's kind of like a danger level, but that danger level it's like knowing that you could possibly get slightly hurt,
Yeah, yeah.
but you could be that good one day. It pushes you to learn and it comes with the practice, but it's in a fun way. Whereas we'll go with the school thing. Whereas school, right? You're in a nice neat row, you raise your hand, and the teacher gets to you when they get to you, right?
Mm-hmm.
Whereas you're with your buddies, they already have a certain skill set. You want to learn that skill set, so you hang out with them more, and you learn by vibing with them.
Yeah. You just kind of absorb it. It's just like a very natural thing that doesn't have to, you don't need a rule book. And everyone can
Yeah,
approach it differently, but the thing that matters is that exposure, you know?
yeah. There's no forcing it.
Yeah, yeah. No forcing. Yeah. Forcing is like a very dangerous thing and very counterproductive sort of thing most of the time. I think the concept of forcing things, the concept of like should, those are both very bad for learning. And believing in the concept of like should, if I'm going to talk about that, is like people will be desperate for it and they'll like try to figure out what's the right way to do things, how they should do things. Whereas like, yeah, if you're going to try to learn how to skateboard or something, you just kind of need to get exposed to it. Everyone's going to go about it differently, but as long as you're exposed with what you're trying to get good at, it's going to soak into you. Your brain
Yeah,
is
like
crazy.
I'll give you a good example of a really good actually ranked game that I had this week. Actually, I think it was 2 days ago. Yeah, because yesterday I did all these pubs matches with my sister and the Octane there.
Hmm.
But because they didn't want to do ranked, so the other day when I was doing ranked, I was solo queuing and I had a Wraith and a Caustic with me. The Caustic didn't have a mic, was using the second screen to type, which I mean, it if you're gonna use second screen, especially on PlayStation, it kind of makes it a little bit slower, right? Because now you're away from your controller, you're typing.
Hmm.
Um, but this guy, he was, oh man, he's like, I love your name. How'd you get your name, right? So I told him like the origin of how I got my name. He's like, that's awesome, man. He's like, I friggin' love turtles, and like we were vibing like right off drop,
That's
right?
sick.
We got some guns, and I already knew. I told him, I said, hey, there's a team in Countdown. I said, let's rotate over to Countdown. So we start rotating, and the Caustic is way behind us,
Hmm.
right? We spot an enemy Wraith by themselves looting. So, hey, let's go shoot this Wraith up. Okay, let's go. And we're both like, I'm tailing them. We're on each other's ass the whole way. and he starts the fight initially, and then I come in and close the fight. And then we take a 2v2 on the teammates, squad wipe, and we're still vibing. We're getting to close to last ring, and we're up 100. I think it was 108 RP. I was in silver one, and we're up to 108 RP. We're getting to last ring because we got, what was it? We each had 3 KP, and the caustic was kind of lagging behind, and doing their own thing, crouching, and just kind of staying behind us and going AFK quite a bit.
Yeah.
Me and Buddy are still vibing, having a good time, and just talking to each other. And all you hear from the second screen from the caustic was, "Would you guys just shut the fuck up?" Like, bro, what? Like,
Yeah.
we're going to last ring. I can still hear everything. He can still hear everything, and you're sitting there AFK by train station. Like, you just need to kind of chill. Like, come hang out with us. Do something, right?
Yeah.
But so we get to last ring, and we got absolutely dogged on by this team. But
Hmm.
second place, 128 RP by the end, was a really good game, really good vibes, and like there was nothing forced. The only thing that kind of got me a little tilted was the way the caustic was being towards us.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was it. But like even like the way that they were playing, it was very slow. It was take it from the back, don't do anything,
Mm.
just let your teammates fight it out kind of deal. And I don't know if they were kind of like hoping to, wait out last ring and, force the other team
It's like a
into ring
scared
or whatever.
scared play style.
Yeah.
It's like not natural.
Yeah.
It's like a product of being scared,
Yeah,
basically.
exactly. So, like, we did, all in all, me and the Wraith ended up doing 1,000 damage each with almost 4 kills because we got the knocks, and we were solo. We actually got knocked by the last guy, and the caustic needed to clutch up and
Hmm.
ended up choking it. But great game. It got me into gold 4. I'm halfway through gold 4 now
Nice.
because I've gotten quite a few teammates that just want to vibe, right? They just kind of there to chill and, oh, don't worry about it, man. Like, we'll get them next time, whatever, right? They'll like they'll like invite me back or something like
And
that, and we'll
and
play a couple games or
you
whatever.
can compare the play style of you and the other guy that were like you guys are just chilling, not even like overthinking anything. You can compare that play style to the guy who's like freaking out, really stressing, and like his play style is clearly the guy stressing out. His play style is clearly just counterproductive.
Yeah, and like the tense words when you're, you should be more like, I don't know. For me, like if my teammates are doing good, right? Like
Mm.
I'll say something like to kind of like motivate them a little bit more, right? Like if they clutch like a 2v1 or something like that, like if I go down and like they're there right off the drop and my other teammates not, but they clutch the 2v1 and then res me, right? Like I'm all,
Hmm.
hey, good job, man. Like that was awesome. Like,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
clap, shit like that, right?
You
And
gotta
like
ask like why is he reacting that way, right?
yeah, exactly. Because like
I mean,
we didn't
what do
give
you
this
think about
guy
that? Because that might be telling of your experience, how you experience the game.
um honestly, the way that that guy was react, I don't know what it was. I mean, it might be hostility due towards like, maybe they've been solo queuing for so long and they just like, have had teammates that are like really rough on them or something.
Mhm.
Or whether it's like inexperience or because I used to have that too, right? Like I used to be so inexperienced and like, like season like I say like 5 friggin' diamond players or whatever are now in bronze or whatever, right? And I'm just learning because I was like coming in at the very end of season 7, right? And I was like, oh yeah, I'll try out ranked or whatever, right?
Mhm.
And they're calling me they're calling me trash can, they're calling me dog water, all this other kind of shit, right? And like then you just kind of like get in that mindset, you believe it, right? Or like
Yeah, yeah.
people are telling you to shut up, they got to hear footsteps, all this other kind of shit, right? Like they're taking it like way too seriously,
Yeah.
and then it like kind of like demotivates your teammates.
Mm.
So I think maybe that's like what they were kind of used to was getting demotivated. They're getting demotivated to play, and like now they got to take it super seriously, where they have to have quiet to hear footsteps, and or like they got to think about the rotations that they want to do and stuff like that instead of just moving.
Mm. Yeah, they've been conditioned to an
Hmm.
unnatural state, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's a really big realization that they've been. It's like an unnatural sort of response that has to be kind of taught. Like no one's just gonna do that for no reason. But
Yeah, like for me with like my like this whole like week and a bit that I've, you know, been working on the stuff that we talked about,
mm,
like it just kind of feels naturally just to flow through the map now. Like
yeah,
I don't even know where I want to go. I
yeah,
just know, okay, well, rings, I just know rings over here. I saw teams land here and here. And if there's too many teams that landed over here, I know they're going to be loot. What it just comes like it's like
it's
I
just a
already kind of know
natural.
that they'll come.
It's like a feeling, right?
Yeah, and like
Sort of a
within the
natural
week and a little
process.
bit that I've been playing, it's just, you know, it's that mindset's already there. So I know, okay, I'm going to stay away from this area for a minute. I'm going to get, you know, easy KP over here because these guys probably haven't rotated yet because they're probably slower at, you know, looting, whatever, right? Or I can get the drop when they're not, you know, paying attention or something like that, even if they spot me first, as long as my positioning's good, you know, and I get those first shots off. Usually it scares the other team, so then, you know, it just kind of flows through my head. It's like it's an instant thought and it's just gone and
Yeah,
I'm
it's
just
an
doing it.
instant thought, right? Like that's like the
Yeah.
difference between a feeling and a thought is like a thought is sort of speculation versus a feeling is sort of like a sort of trust, you know, and you don't
Yeah.
question it. There's no dialogue inside. It's just it's it
Yeah.
goes in completely instantly because there's no processing,
Yeah.
and
Whereas
that's how
like I
you
used
get
to like
really fast. Like this is how you
yeah,
develop
like where
speed.
I used to stop at shit like this, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
here I wouldn't even thought of taking that zip line. I would have actually sat there and thought about it or
Mm-hmm.
been like, "Hey team, we should take the zip line or whatever," right? Now I'm just doing it. I'm just
Okay.
going wherever I want, right? And making it so that my teammates follow me, right? Or I'm meeting up with my teammates after what I'm doing. Whereas I would have never done that like beforehand. I would have just stopped, thought about it, and it would have looked like I was AFK for a while.
Yeah. So this. I mean, this is actually surprising. Like usually it's not this easy. Usually like kind of takes a minute for people to wrap their head around all this stuff. So it's really actually yeah, it's just a pleasant surprise that these things are like developing the way they are in you, and it's like the way you're explaining these things makes it really clear that like these are like natural developments. That reminds me of something else I was going to talk about with nuance earlier. I don't want to forget it. But I want to point out because these two things, you know, they barely relate. But basically, the way these people are trying to teach the game, they'll take this nuance that they've developed through this process that you're going through right now, where you're not thinking about things. You're going in, approaching the game in an honest and like clear manner, where things are how they are, and you don't overthink it. And then you'll develop skills from that, which are more like instincts. And then if you wanted, you could like think about them, point them out, and like conceptualize them basically. So what these people are doing is they're conceptualizing skills into thoughts, which is like a counterproductive act. Like they're turning feelings into thoughts, and they think that you can take those thoughts and then turn them into feelings, but that's not how it works. Instead, they should be teaching how they developed the instincts, basically, which is playing the game and approaching the problems that come up with doing that, all the challenges, in a way where it stops them from slowing you down. Do you know what I mean? Like what you're doing right now and how you're explaining like the concept of like an instant thought, and like in my mind that's an instinct. Like you're basically explaining instinctual gameplay to me right now. Like this is the way all those people trying to teach you learned, basically. Like all the meaningful things that they know, like their true skill is learned in like this instinctual manner. If it's something they have to think about, it's not really like a true skill. It's more of a speculation or
Yeah.
a
One
theory.
guy that I would point out, I mean, he's a Twitch streamer, but like he's got a big following on TikTok, right?
Hmm.
Um, is this guy called Enoch,
Yeah, I've
and
I
so
know about that guy.
basically yeah, so his approach to everything, especially for like his TikTok followers and stuff like that, is basically telling you to rep pubs like all the time
Hmm.
and to get yourself into like crazy situations and to become a shooter and to kind of like get that instinctual knowledge and
Yeah,
sense, so that way
that
you're
sounds pretty
not
good.
like um constantly thinking when you're in ranked, right? Like
Hmm.
there he said that like the thinking level for like especially like high ranked is different than pubs, because pubs you don't have to go into and think, whereas ranked you gotta kind of, you know, take into account where teams are and, you know, find the easiest way to get KP as possible without fucking up your squad. Whereas pubs, you just go in and you just shoot. And he said for a lot of people that don't have that aim, or that, you know, that haven't really been playing first person shooters, that don't have the skill,
Hmm.
he says just constantly rep pubs, and eventually your not just your like your positioning, but like your gunfight skill will become a lot higher. Your gunfight sense will become higher just because of your knowledge from pubs, right? So like it's kind of like, oh, I've seen this shit before, and
Hmm.
it just clicks naturally for you. Is
Yeah, yeah,
basically how he tells his followers to go
yeah.
by
You
it.
just spam the game and then it kind of becomes part of you. The only thing I
Yeah.
disagree is like I think pubs are great. But I think ranked is just better. The only problem is like downtime basically. But once you get to a certain level, pubs basically become like almost pure downtime unless you can really push yourself. And then people will tend to think they're pushing themselves harder than they are. Whereas if they play ranked, the game will push themselves harder than they could have possibly pushed themselves. You know what I mean? So ranked will push you harder than you can push yourself.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think like the way he's approaching it is really good though. Like I think that's actually true. Um, and that's like a relief because I never knew what his content was like, but it's good to hear that it's doesn't sound bad. Um, all right, well, there's a few things so far. So the thing where you talk about like thinking, um, like how you don't want to get end up thinking, I want to just emphasize how most of the time when you find yourself thinking in a situation, that's usually when you're making a gamble out of desperation. Like if you don't know what to do, basically, if you find yourself thinking, it means that you don't know what's going on and you don't know how to respond on an instinctual level or like a feeling level. And a lot of people don't realize that. And I think it's gonna make sense to you, but I did want to emphasize like yeah, when you find yourself in a situation where you stop and you end up thinking, it's like a very clear sign that you're inexperienced and that you lack skill in that situation. But what a lot of people take it as is that's my style, you know. I'm just a very cerebral player and I think a lot. They don't actually realize that it's like a red flag basically. And it's not really like a red flag like let's say in this situation you didn't really know what to do and maybe you thought a little bit. It's not like a bad thing, but the bad thing is when people associate thinking with skill. Like there are times where you do have to make gambles and you do have to speculate on what to do, and you're never going to know 100%. But this usually happens at like a really high level,
Okay.
when you're
Yeah, this one here.
determining circles and I don't know, more complex stuff. In the end of the day, if you're sitting there speculating about what to do, it's not a sign of confidence or, you know, being like strong in whatever situation you find yourself in that moment. So
Yeah,
yeah.
this one here kind of messed me up. That gameplay there actually messed me up. Um, because I know one of my teammates had said there's a team behind us,
Mhm.
and so basically when I have my other two teammates with me, my sister and my buddy, right? One's always lagging behind me, right? Like I said,
Yeah.
because like I just move, right? So like if I see a team off in the distance or something, right, and I know they're not going to be able to catch up with me, right, and I know I don't need to take the fight, I'm not going to take the fight. I'm going to be wary of that team, but I'm not going to take that fight unless it's absolutely necessary, right? So if I know there's a team or something there, right, or if my teammate knows there's another team there and they're just thirsty for kills or they, want to try and do something about it,
Hmm.
right? Then I push back to them, right? To give them that little bit of extra help, I guess. So that way they're not completely alone trying to take, a 1v3 or something, right?
Hmm.
Because then that other team could have better positioning. Even though my teammate could have high ground or whatever, right? They could have better positioning, whether it be, their ground cover or better shots, whatever, right? You don't know that other team's skill.
Yeah, and
So
positioning
I
strength
just
is
try
also
to.
determined by a gun. So like somebody with horizontal positioning might be, stronger with a gun with higher strafe speed versus a gun with a rifle head glitching. Like those are two
Yeah.
really strong situations, and they're dependent on the gun. So it's a really complex thing. It's good that you're not like you don't see it in black and white.
Yeah, so basically in that last gameplay there, it was me trying to go back up my teammate, but then the problem is there was another team in Fragment West there, and my other teammate was already going up there,
Hmm.
and they got caught by another team. So I know our best thing that we should have done was gotten out of there and tried to force those two teams to meet up, whether it be us just, dicking around and, you know, dodging their shots and shit like that and leading them towards the fight that was already going on in front of me instead of, backtracking to my other teammate and leaving my other teammate vulnerable to the other team that they were seeing, right?
Hmm.
It was kind of a catch 22 in that, but in all aspects I think I kind of overextended myself in the way I was thinking about going about things and didn't put it into play. I was just kind of, overextending myself and backing up, trying to back up both. And then when it came down to it, they left. My other teammate left the guys that were behind us and tried to come up ahead with us to get that other team when we were already low.
For him. So I wanted to point out when you said like you knew the best option. You know, I don't know for sure about how you like your thought process on that, but I will point out like whenever you find yourself in a bad situation, whenever you kind of review it and decide like all we had to do is this, or this was the best option, or like whatever best thing you can come up with, best option you can come up with, try to it could come down to just like how you phrase it, but I do want to point out like be aware that the best option you can think of, or if you can only think of one option, there's always going to be probably 10 times the amount of options, or 5 or 10 times the amount of options, like no one
Yeah, it's
will
just
ever
not it's not
know.
anything, but it's like that's the thing that you could think of in the moment, right?
Yeah. So always make sure, like, if something bad happens, you have that understanding, like that self awareness that the situation in itself wasn't bad, even if it is that way in your head. So
Yeah.
always be open to, like, there's the option to do something different, and there's the potential to do the same thing in a different way or better, or there's just endless options basically. And make sure you never limit yourself to, like, we should have done something different, or you don't limit yourself to we should have done what we did better, because everything is always at play in this game basically, and you want to not limit yourself basically to, like, one thing or another.
Okay.
Okay, so toxic teammates is something I think I should go over, because this is something that is kind of like an accessory problem that usually comes up with when people start to get out of their own head and focus on the game more. Usually these are the main one of the main things that still manage to, like, pull people out of sort of like just flowing through the game in like a fluid manner. It's usually like toxic teammates, one of the most common things, and social pressure. But I'll go over um how we can change our perception of toxic teammates so you don't really feel as much pressure from them. So basically, I'll point out this trash can analogy. Okay, so if you complain about a trash teammate, it's kind of like you're hurting yourself, right? It's not like the trash teammate's actually doing anything wrong, because people can't help themselves, and also your perception of them is not going to be certain, right? So you could judge them wrong. Like that caustic, he was super passive, right? He had a completely different playstyle. That could have been a reason why he like lashed out at you guys, which you attributed to lack of experience. Like, yeah, he could be getting frustrated because he thinks the game is supposed to be played a certain way, right? And he has that stubbornness and that arrogance that is usually common with new players. They oversimplify things, and then when people do things differently, they're unable to comprehend the potential of different, play styles. They don't give
Yeah.
people the benefit of the doubt or any respect, and they have too much certainty. So basically, it can come down to lack of experience, why people would lash out, lack of experience plus like certainty slash stubbornness. And then if you disagree with what they believe in how you play, they're gonna freak out.
I was also playing ranked arenas the one day with my girlfriend actually. Because I just wanted her to get into a game, right? Like, because we always have games that we usually play and stuff like that, right? And she's really good at first person shooters, especially like battle royales and stuff like that. She was big into the Warzone and all that kind of stuff, right? And I told her, I said, this is like completely different, like game mechanics and stuff like that than Warzone. I said, you can climb things. You have a bunch of different types of nades, just like Warzone does. Said it all depends on really
What is going
how you
on?
play. I said, but we
Hang
had a
on, my
guy
phone
coming.
has
Yep.
a an alarm that is not showing. Okay, continue.
So, we had a guy come into the party, and I used to be part of a community, and I actually just recently left it. Um, but so he's part of this community, and I think he still is. But he come in and he's like, "Hey guys, like you guys just chilling, playing and all." I was like, "Yeah, we're just chilling." He's like, kind of running down his resume to us,
Mm-hmm.
right? And you know those players that like they really love the game, but they don't really know how to. It's kind of like they don't know how to talk to people, kind of deal, right?
Yeah.
Because they just want to kind of boast on their stats and stuff like that, and
Oh
like,
yeah.
oh, don't worry, I'll carry you and stuff like
Oh
that, right?
yeah.
He's like, so I basically like learned from like masters and preds and stuff like that, and that's like where my game like I'm pretty good, right? Like he's like I'm solo queuing up right now, and because I haven't played ranked in a while, in like a long time. He says so. I'm just kind of solo queuing, trying to find some teammates and stuff like that. He's like, if you guys don't mind, you're like, I'll carry you and stuff like that, right? Like you guys are playing ranked arenas, I'll carry you guys, right? And he took a real big interest in me. He's like, so demonic, how long you been playing? So I told him, I said, 3/4 of the way through season 7 when I started. He's like, oh well, I started about the same time as you. He says, how's it going so far? I said, honestly, I said, I'm still, gold. I guess I have the potential to, get into plat. I said because I've had a couple buddies that were in plat and I'd play with them when I was in gold, and for some reason the plat lobbies just felt easier. I said we would go in and, we'd get our RP and stuff like that for the game, right? But I mean, we'd still kind of get shit on, but that's just, my skill base wasn't there. And he's like, okay, he's like, don't worry, like, I'll he's like, I've learned from like masters and preds and stuff like that. I've played with them like since I started. So he's like, I don't care how you guys do. He says, I'll carry you guys just as long as you guys are, improving and stuff like that. I don't mind. But the overconfidence,
Yeah.
he
The
would just
arrogance.
kind of,
He has like like a
yeah,
very certain aura to him. Like he's very certain.
yeah, he would just kind of run in because he's already got like his own play style, and he knows where he wants to go and what he wants to do. So for him, he's already got a game plan,
Mm.
right? But then, he'd get knocked or something, right? And I'm maybe 60 meters away from him, right? And I don't see where he took the fight, but then he'd get knocked. I'd kill the guy that knocked him, pick him back up, or he'd be like, "Oh, it's a 2v2 now, right?" And then I'd just go on. He'd be like, "Don't worry about me. Like Ring's gonna get me, so just focus on the fight, right?" So I'd focus on the fight, and he would sit there when he'd die and he'd watch me. And he's like, "So you started when I started," and he's like, "You got potential. You got real potential. Like you could be really good." But he's like, I was like, honestly, I said, I've been learning from like plat players and basically by myself. Like, I've had nobody really to show me the way, but everybody I've ever kind of played with was in plat and or diamond. He's like, oh, well, diamond and plat ain't shit. Like,
Yeah.
okay, calm down.
Uh,
Like, like you don't gotta put them on blast like that. Just everybody learns at their own pace. They'll get like, you know, I still have a lot to learn, a lot to go.
yeah.
He's like,
So
well, he's like, I'll game with you whenever you want, and like, we'll make you really good and this and that. And I'm like, hey, you're really confident. I got you.
yeah. Like okay. So there's so much about this that just it bothers me. I'm not sure what I should touch on first, but I would try to limit it. But I will say like the first thing, one of the first things that came to my mind. Well, okay, this is the second thing. I guess I'll actually go with the first thing. The first thing is certainty versus openness. Like this guy has a certainty of how things should be learned and like all that garbage, and that just pollutes your mind and like the process, the natural way you're gonna learn things. It's gonna like filter things in an unnatural way. Like this guy's basically gonna be blind to like let's say you're playing a gold or a plat lobby, and you're gonna get certain feedback from the game, basically input into your brain from spamming games. Like this guy's gonna ignore a lot of that because he has an ego and he has a certainty of what matters. and he's created that filter that I talked about last session about I forgot what I was talking about in this regard, but having a sort of like filter, like a skewed filter that determines what is important. I think I was talking about aim trainers. Like if you convince yourself that certain things are more important, how you um how you judge skill is basically gonna be skewed, and then the way you absorb information is gonna be slowed down and hindered in like in those ways. So
Yeah.
yeah, he's very certain of like how things should happen, and that creates a filter that's just gonna ruin his like. It's gonna make it so every game he plays is less valuable, essentially. And whereas you, like, you have more honest gameplay where you haven't been told what's important. You haven't been like, you know, brainwashed. Basically, you're just approaching things in a way that is very way more open than someone like this. I don't know exactly how open, but like compared to this guy, it's like night and day. You know, the sort of the rigidity and like you know what I mean. Um
Yeah, like don't get me
so
wrong, like
so this is the danger of when people puppeteer gameplay and get too specific. And this is one of the main reasons why I try to avoid that, and why I try to let you do the learning, and for me to try and dispel things that get in the way rather than like spoon feeding you things. And then people, if I tell you like in this situation you should have used cover differently, you should have abused, positioned this way because you have this gun and that influences your movement speed in this way, and hip fire works this way and that, so like depending on how much damage you do and how much armor they have, blah 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 blah. Like if I get into these specifics, you're gonna take like a fucking like a fucking like a pie slice, right? And you're gonna depend on it. You're gonna take like a fragment of the information, and people who take advice are usually just gonna cling to that, and then they're gonna become blind to everything around that is like obvious. They're gonna not see what's in their face, and they're gonna constantly remind themselves of like the advice they got. Oh, because I got it from a pred and a master player, it must be better than what is actually being shown in front of me. This is how you get people who they'll end up in a situation where they something bad happens and then they go, "No way, bro. These people are so fucking stupid. What an idiot. There's no way that just happened. That's not supposed to happen." They have these concepts and this rigidity and this stubbornness of how things should happen, and it makes it so when it goes against how, like, basically when they get exposed, they're in denial. It's dishonest gameplay. And so this is a perfect example that you pointed out of somebody with dishonest gameplay. And I just want to emphasize that to try and like strengthen the fact that you have a more honest approach and see like the strengths of that. You know what I mean?
it's
Like
more like um so basically I've been told that people imprint the first things that they're told,
yeah.
especially if it's given by information, like if it's an
Yeah.
informative
That's a
way,
great way to put it.
they imprint the things that they have said first. So it's kind of like when a cop goes into the field, right? And they're told the suspect has a tattoo, looks like this,
Mhm.
or they've been selling this, right? Like if they have a picture of something and they don't know that, say like it's a drug deal or something, right? If the picture looks like the other person is handing the drugs, that's now the initial suspect. Whereas it could have been the other way around, but because they're told this is the suspect, they look like this, they will be looking for that. So if you're told, like, oh, you could have done this better, this, like, you could have had this position if you had this gun, this blah blah blah, all this other kind of like, they put all these variables in your head, you
Mhm.
imprint that, and that's your first impression. So then it kind of just sticks with you the entire way. Like I know I was
Yeah,
like that for the longest
and it
time,
it
right?
limits it
In
limits to
everything.
your actual observation. You know, it makes it so you're looking for that thing, right? Rather than keeping your eyes open for it or like, reacting to it rationally.
Yeah, exactly. It just completely limits you because that's the first impressions that you get
What's up, Hickam?
because somebody told you, especially with like more experience, right? Or
Yeah.
like in a job or in your job, right? The higher up that gets paid more than you told you this, so now you're on the lookout for that constantly, right? That's what you're looking for. That messes you up or hinders you in some sort of way. When now you got, if it's cop, now you got the wrong bad guy, right? I mean, you might have a bad guy, but it could be the wrong bad guy for a different crime.
Yeah, so I think like so the good thing is for you is like with me I'm completely aware of all this stuff. Not completely aware, but I'm aware to the point to where I shift my coaching style around it to avoid all this stuff, but we can talk about it to emphasize like the dangers of this stuff. I have a whole like I don't know how long it is. I haven't worked on it in a few months, but it's basically on this concept where people have been convinced this is how they're supposed to learn because if you go on YouTube, you see top 10 tips to get to pred or whatever. And then, basically just cheap information, cheap tips for people to cling on to, imprint basically. Basically, people have been taught that to get better, you need to imprint yourself on like this random information. Uh, you know, Constantly remind yourself of it consciously in your head. Oh, I do this, take high ground, take high ground, take high ground, blah blah blah. While they're playing, and then they become blind to the actual gameplay. Um, yeah, it's really good that like you understand how this is bad because this is like one of the most counterproductive and harmful things that's going on with gaming, and it's just getting worse. It's just becoming more and more dangerous, and most people are really vulnerable to this. But
Like I get how that's how like a lot of the pros and stuff like that they make their money, right? Like is off of like
yeah,
YouTube videos or
this is
like
how you farm
instructional
content.
videos and stuff like that. But it's like it's kind of just farming the masses that are like hard stuck gold or like, they're just their gameplay's not improving and they don't know why.
Yeah,
But they're like, oh
yeah,
well, I watched this video and like so I got to put this into my gameplay and I just don't know how, right? There's no
hmm,
proper way of actually being able to take all those things into account and actually look at it when it's more of a feeling base and how you actually play the game.
yeah. So okay, I can go a bit. I want to say the last thing I want to touch on this before we move on because this is like kind of off topic. I will say so with a lot of people, how they play games, they'll end up getting desperate to get better because they have pressures to get better. People make them feel bad for being a certain skill level. People get the general gist that they should be better than how they are, when in fact you should never be better than how you are. You are how you are because of what you've done, and you can't just will yourself to be different. And so people basically they get pressured to become desperate to be better than they actually are. They look for these tips, and the way they play the game in a way where it's not really gonna make them better. The more they get desperate, the more they get shamed for being bad, the more they're gonna avoid challenge and playing the game in a fun way. They're gonna end up like that caustic. That caustic is not learning. He's gonna be hard stuck for a long time, and he's gonna have no idea why he's going with all the pressures of everyone telling him he's bad, and like he's just trying to avoid getting uh blamed basically. Um, so people will become desperate, and
I actually have one example of that,
yeah. So
actually, if you don't mind. So
maybe hang
basically,
on. So basically, people will end up getting very desperate, and their gameplay will become almost torturous because they'll avoid all the things that are fun, all the things that have a conducive like. They'll avoid conducive playstyles to having fun and learning because those are one and the same thing. and it will become a torturous experience. So you get a nice dopamine hit when you get told how to get better. When a pro gives you a tip, a specific tip, it gives you like it's like you're drowning and like they throw you a life raft, you know? Or
Mm-hmm.
in this case it's like fake. It's like they throw you something that looks like it's supposed to float but it doesn't. And then you get so much hope and motivation, and maybe you even start to paddle a bit faster, you don't drown as much or whatever. And it makes things feel better for a few days, and then you're like, wow, that didn't do anything. I still feel awful. This is still a horrible experience. And now you feel even worse that you're not getting better because you're supposed to be better, and now people telling you how to get better is not even working. So you must be stupid. And so you go further into your shell. You get more ranked anxiety, you avoid challenges, all this and that, and it just spirals out of control. So I will say that. But I don't think we should go on this too much. I think we should leave this for now
Okay.
because I don't think it's gonna apply to you very much. I think you understand this stuff. Um okay, so the toxic teammate thing, we kind of this was kind of a tangent off of the toxic teammate thing. But so let's try to finish up on the toxic teammate thing because this is actually going to slow you down if it continues to bother you, and we want to try to minimize that. So the reason people flame is because they don't have like an awareness that they're actually trash themselves. And so what you do when you play a video game is like you're signing up to be a trash man, basically, and you're signing up to be trash. It's like an agreement. It's in like the EULA or whatever. People don't read it. At the bottom it says you're trash and everyone else is trash. Sometimes, in parentheses, sometimes. And so when they have a trash teammate, they don't have the self awareness that like sometimes they're that trash teammate and they take it out on you. So when someone is flaming you because you're doing bad or whatever, it's good to remind yourself like they're doing this because of their own ignorance. Like it's telling about them, and this lack of self awareness and this arrogance they have is actually a worse trait, and it's gonna slow down their improvement. It's gonna have a really negative impact, way more so like than you just being worse at that moment. Like you being at any skill level at any moment does not have any negative effect. It doesn't stop you from improving. You know what I mean? But them
Yeah.
having this sort of arrogance and this insecurity where it makes it so they will go out of their way to point out when other people are trash, um, that's gonna stay with them for a long time, and it's going to weigh them down like an anchor. Because what happens when they're trash? They're not gonna realize that that's what they signed up for, and that that's a perfectly acceptable part of the game. That's a given. It's guaranteed. Like it's inevitable that you're going to be trash. You're gonna be completely trash, and it's a cycle. You're gonna carry. You're gonna get carried. You're gonna carry. You're gonna get carried, and in between, you're gonna do fine. And they're gonna be completely like their head is gonna spin from that process. It's gonna feel completely wrong. So if we emphasize that this is like an inevitable part of the process of playing any game that takes any amount of skill, it's gonna be very it's gonna be much easier to accept when somebody is being a dickhead. It's gonna be much easier to accept when you can't carry or when you're unhappy with your gameplay, or it's gonna make people not be able to make you feel as bad as they normally could. Does that does that make sense to you? Like, do you have any
Yeah.
questions
I
about
mean,
that? Because I
I wish
use this
I would have.
analogy a lot, so I want to understand.
Yeah. I wish I would have friggin' had the one ranked game. Um, because like toxic teammates, they really do. They get me tilted more than taking a gunfight like that. I know that I'm possibly gonna lose, right? So I wish I had the clip, but basically, ring was closing in. Teammate decides to run off and take a 1v3, gets absolutely trashed on by all three teammates, and the other teammate decides to run in to the 1v3 and tries to grab banner.
Mm-hmm.
And Ring's, like I said, Ring is hot on our ass, right? And I was like, I'm not taking that fight. Like, I already know there's three guys in the building. I'm not taking this fight, right? I even told
Mm-hmm.
them, I'm not taking the fight. I'm going to get out and I'm going to try to grab your banners when they rotate, right? Because it was only first ring. I had the heals. So they're like, okay, whatever, right? But I took jump tower and I had to get a little bit further away so that way I wouldn't get hit by ring and waste all my heals before I grabbed them. And he's like, oh, did you really have to go that far away? Like, you're really gone that far? I was like, well, I got the speed. I know I can come grab you guys. He's like, come grab us. And he's already watching me play. Like, he's already dead. I have to grab the
Yeah.
banner. So I know he's watching me play. And you really had to go that far? Like, come get us. Do you know the team's still there or did they rotate? He's like, I don't know. Well, you don't know? I don't know. So how am I going to come get you? He's like, just come grab my banner. So I was like, all right, well, listen, I'm going to die and it's probably not going to be due to ring. So I run in, back off of jump tower, and I heard the team. So now I'm in ring, trying to get cover so that way they don't see me. But guess what? They're rotating the same way that I was rotating out. So they see me, and immediate beams straight on me. He's like, "Oh, you're so trash. You should have gotten us in the first place." What am
Yeah.
I going to do? Like, and that had me for like a straight like 10 minutes arguing with this guy back and forth. And it's like I don't need teammates like that are willing to just like you're the first one to go down because you thought, "Hey, I'm so goated. I'm going to take a 1v3."
Yeah. Yeah.
It doesn't work that way. Like but it every single time it just absolutely rubs me the wrong way, and then I just kind of it kind of sticks with you, but like not enough to the point where I'm gonna choke with my next teammates that are gonna try to vibe with me or something like that, right? But it's still enough in the moment that it's like messes up my judgment to actually play the game.
Yeah. One thing I want to point out from that, like all of that is, it's very obvious that it's just like a very good example of someone being toxic and stuff. I want to say when people backseat game, like every once in a while you'll be spectating your teammate and you'll get that feeling. You'll be like, wow, why are they doing this? Like, what's going on? Maybe you want to like tell them what to do, but like one of the cool things is like you get to see how other people play. You get to see how people disagree with you, and let's see what happens. And that guy completely lacked that sort of openness and adventurous sort of approach to the game. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
that's an entire another concept in itself. That like they just people who are being toxic, like when they're genuinely bothered by their teammates' performance or what they're doing or how they're doing it, because they lack so many fundamentals of getting good at anything, basically. So yeah, like when you're spectating and you can just accept what people are doing, it's a huge strength, you know? Rather than getting concerned that they're doing something different than what you'd normally do. Um, Here, let me see if I. All right. Okay. I feel like the only thing that really stands out is like toxic teammates, and I don't see anything else getting in your way very much from what you've pointed out. Let me ask you a little bit about your aim and like how you think about like how do you feel about your aim? We'll just start with that.
All right, so I'm pretty sure I've told you like I've played some aim trainers and stuff like that, right? And
Hmm.
I had quite a few hours in aim trainers, not like a shit ton of
How
hours,
does
but
that
like
work with a controller?
so
You
basically,
just is it
you know
like
how Mouse and Key has like aim labs,
yeah, yeah,
right? And they have like flick training, they have strafe training, all that kind of shit, right?
yeah.
So PlayStation actually brought out a um a game where you can actually develop. It's kind of like a small, if you want to develop your own game type of deal,
Mm.
right?
Okay.
Like it's kind of like
People
gives you
use
like the
it.
program.
People use it to make like
And
aim trainers, right?
yeah,
For console.
so there's a guy and he's got quite a few things on this game that, and he made this aim trainer, and it was specifically for like COD, Apex. Like it gives you like the different variables
Yeah, yeah.
of like like your sensitivities and stuff like that for like whether you're playing Apex or COD or whatever, right?
Hmm.
And so like you can have like flick training, or you can have like tracking and stuff like that,
Yeah.
and you just basically you shoot the targets. That's it. You shoot the targets, and whether you're like this one's not really a strafing one.
All
It's
right.
more of a tracking
So
and flicking
so basically console
type.
has an aim trainer as well, but it's slightly different. That's what I'm
Yeah,
hearing.
slightly different
Okay.
than, it's not more, it's not as advanced as aim labs, but there is no aim assist,
All right.
right? To
So
keep the aim assist out. It's just all you and you moving your analog sticks.
all
That's
right.
it.
So how do you feel about your aim in its current state? Because you said you point out to me like some things are like coming to your attention.
So I don't know whether it's choking or whether it's because I've improved my mobility as like I'm
Mm-hmm.
rotating and like being able to get better positioning and stuff like that. Um, but basically it's a 50, I'd say it's more like, I don't know, 60-40, maybe 70-30 on whether I actually hit my shots or not. I don't know
Mm-hmm.
if it's like the confidence factor or whether just not being put into those situations enough or something like that. That's just, I'm losing my gunfights and not hitting my shots or what it is. But
Yeah,
I
so
had
I would
days
I
where
would
like
say
I'm
all
an
of those
absolute beast.
things, all of those things are factors of aim. I'll just add like choking. You know, people think like I have sick aim. I just get nervous. Like, dude, that's part of aim. If it affects your aim in any degree, that's a part of aim skill. So I'll just
Yeah,
add that.
like some days I'm an absolute beamer. Like some days
Mm,
I'll just pick up a wingman. I'll pick up a one time with the wingman and I'll go to town, right? Like
yeah.
I'll drop like 5, maybe 6 kills with a wingman, right? Easily. And sometimes I'll pick up a sentinel and I will miss 6 out of 12 shots.
So okay, what did you
Or
say about your mobility again? So your mobility got better, and you're aware that your aim could possibly be having a hard time catching up.
yeah, because like
Okay,
I'll be moving or
that's
whatever,
good.
right? And like it, whether it's like my flick speed, like especially like with a one shotgun, like a sniper, like because when you ADS, right, you're
Mhm.
obviously your movement gets slower, but only to a certain degree, right? Whereas like then say I got a reposition or something like that, right? I just can't find my aim on back on the target, right? And
Yeah.
then I'm
So
losing my
you're
gunfight.
not used to moving around as much as you're starting to, and it's starting to make you feel like your aim could possibly be encountering a problem.
Yeah.
Okay, so I will explain that for you basically. Um, like the process of aim development, I think is that. experience specifically. Like the root of that experience is how aim develops, and I think it's the only way aim develops. And what I mean by that is your aim is not really going to improve if it doesn't have to, because your brain is not going to learn any new skills that it doesn't have to. If you're not moving, it's not going to learn how to aim while moving, right? So the first thing you have to do is improve other skills that take priority over aim, and then your aim has to yield to those skills. You know what I mean? So like you have to learn how to move in Apex. It's one of the most apparent things. If you don't move, if you don't position, you're going to get completely beamed by 3 people, right? Because it's not a 1v1 game. It's going to be even more punishing if you can't close angles and manipulate 1v1, 3v3 or 3v3s into 1v1s or 3v1s, etc., etc. You have to learn those skills, and then your aim is going to start to struggle, and you're going to realize, holy crap, I'm missing so much. I'm so bad. I'm missing. And then some people, they will either say, okay, this is something new. We'll try to get good at it. And the other half of people will go, dude, I suck. I need to hold still. So how do you feel about that? Which group are you in?
Basically,
Like when you're in that situation, like how do you feel rather than, how do you think about it logically? It might be different.
like actually, this one's probably actually this clip right here is
Mhm.
probably like my best way of having it. Like you see, I'm moving around, right, and I'm trying to hit these shots, and it's
Yeah.
just not happening for me, right? But then
Looks like you're
I'm gonna
rolling
get the
with it
drop
though.
on this guy here, right? So I'm gonna get the drop over here, right? And my shots will absolutely hit. But
Yeah.
now I'm kind of, staying stationary, and I'm just flicking my my stick back and forth, right? Just trying to, get that tracking down,
Mhm.
right? And that's basically where it is, right? But when it's a stationary target like that, right, where he's on the ground, I can actually move and get those shots off
Mhm.
because now he's more of a stationary target, right? Whereas if he's moving and I'm
Okay.
moving, I kind of feel like I got to be stationary to be able to hit my shots and actually track the
That
guy
makes
down
sense.
instead of moving with
So
him.
that's your response, like in how you play the situation. That's good to see. But how do you feel? So let's say, um, because not all the time. Like sometimes you're gonna be moving and you're gonna be missing your shots. Like right here. Like how did you feel over here when the shots just weren't hitting?
Honestly, I felt like I needed to slow down
Okay. So you
because
don't
I felt
you
like I was
okay.
moving way too fast for it.
All right. All right. So that's actually good. Like that's something we can actually improve on. That's like low hanging fruit for you, I'll say. So how am I gonna teach this? All right. So what I'll say is you're not gonna learn this consciously. Something you can try to learn consciously, but that's gonna be like a drop in the pond, right? Where the where the improvement is really gonna come from is when you play a lot and you put yourself in situations to where you're going to be doing this exact motion, like not this exact motion, but this exact challenge where you're doing something new that's gonna challenge your aim without thinking about it before you can adjust. Because see, you're doing it right now, right? You're challenging yourself in that situation. You didn't have to consciously think about it or decide to challenge yourself. And then over here you adjusted and you kind of went to your comfort zone, right? But we saw that initially this learning process took place. Like you challenged yourself. You didn't have to, but you did it. It's just a natural thing that occurs without thinking about it. So yeah, what I'll say is um definitely you're gonna be wanting to play a lot. Um, but what I'll say to kind of give you confidence in the process is that when you play, if you're gonna rank up, it's not gonna be aim ranking you up 99.9% of the time, or maybe 90% of the time. Sometimes it will. But what's gonna happen is you're gonna play the game a lot. You're gonna be playing ranked or whatever. You're gonna consistently go against better players, You're gonna learn new skills like positioning, for example. So the best example I can give is head peaks. People will abuse head peaks like crazy because high ground is really important. You know what I mean? Like it's probably one of the most universally OP things in an FPS is using high ground because then you're a pixel versus some guy who's 5,000 pixels, and you have it's just as easy for you to hit him as it would be if you were like you get what I mean. Basically, you're gonna be playing against people that force you to like shoot pixels more often. The more often that you make yourself a pixel, so your positioning is gonna get better. You're gonna rank up. You're gonna play against people with better positioning, and the aim is gonna follow. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So that's the main way your aim is gonna get better. It's gonna be an adaptive response. It's not aim is never harpooning itself through the gameplay and like aim is never forcing your movement to get better. Aim is never forcing your positioning to get better. Aim is like the freaking it's always the thing that follows. So main way you're gonna get better, you're gonna be playing ranked. That's what I recommend is playing ranked, of course. And play when you play pubs occasionally, like I said, it's good to keep yourself honest, you know. You're gonna play against people who are way better than who you play against in pubs. But when you play against people in pubs, they're gonna do weird stuff, and you're gonna have to react to that, and you're gonna become a bit more flexible in that way. So playing a little bit of pubs, playing a lot of ranked, that's like ideal. And then just flooding your brain with like this um this like experience, you know. This is that natural process where every game you play you're going to encounter this a few times where your aim is going to be following something. It's going to be adapting to some sort of your gameplay that is improving. That's how your aim is going to get better. um i'm wondering I'm wondering if I need to worry about like, you know, some people they'll cater to their aim and they'll reduce their movement. They'll basically reduce their skill because their aim is not hitting. And usually that happens with people who pay attention to aim. Ironically, the people that care about aim will end up um, hurting the growth of their aim by catering to it, right? So if you want to get better aim, you better be strafing, you better be dodging, you better be positioning yourself well. You better be playing against better opponents. But people who want better aim, they'll go against better opponents and they'll be like, this sucks, I'm missing. So let's play against easier opponents. Oh, I'm hitting them now. It's nice. My aim must be better. When in reality, their aim has not improved. They just played against a easier situation. So what I'll say for you is make sure you don't fall into that trap. Make sure you don't feel like shame when you miss. It's just what happens, you know? But a lot of people are
Yeah.
taught to feel shame when they miss. They're taught that it's like a bad thing, but that's just how it is, you know? So I'll
See,
say I'll say
yeah,
just
I love the movement stuff. Like
mhm.
honestly, watching people absolutely dog on others because their movement was way faster and they got that position up there way quicker and they had the skill base and the knowledge to be able to get to where they are with their movement and then like all right, what was his name there? I watched him the other day. So not Zach Mazer, Neffen, actually. I
Oh
watched
yeah,
Neffen the
Nathan.
other day too.
Yeah.
And so I was watching him and even like he doesn't hit his shots 100% of the time, right? Zach
Yeah.
Mazer doesn't hit 100% of the time,
Yeah.
but the way that they move counteracts that aim is what I've noticed a lot is like because of the simple fact that they're positioning themselves in a better way because of their movement capabilities makes it a lot better in situations for them where even if their aim is it's a little off or they're overcompensating
Hmm.
on their shots or something like that, right? They don't take that into account. They just keep moving. And like or they have
Yeah, they're
better movement
prioritizing
than
it.
me.
Like they
So
they will not
yeah,
sacrifice the things that are more important.
yeah, like it's just all movement with them. It's all they do is just constant movement, and then they don't dog on their teammates for it. They know, oh, okay, well, I didn't move fast enough, or I didn't, but they don't consciously say it and like in their streams or out loud to other people. They already take that into account, and it's just then they put all their knowledge that they've already got in game into their movement, and then they hit their shots because their movement's there. Like I've not once seen
That's really good that you actually
either of
notice it.
them.
I feel like you have a pretty good like memory, and like you said before, like you're very observational, which surprises me each time. That's good. I feel like that'll give you like confidence in or patience, I guess, is what it will ultimately result in, is you'll be more patient with yourself, hopefully. Um,
I mean, I'm not looking for like overnight success or anything like that. I'm looking
yeah.
like, I'm always looking to be better and always to improve, and I know it takes time. Like it's kind of like when I used to wrestle, right? Like
Hmm.
I was taught to lay on my stomach for my first year of wrestling, and then the next coach I had, he was like, "Well, we're going to teach you that all the really bad habits that you have aren't really bad, but they can be improved upon. And then we'll teach you the things that you actually need to know from here and get it drilled for you. And and then the experience goes towards, like the things that I was actually doing, right? So like he put me a guy up against guys I was in like featherweight category. He
Hmm.
put me up against guys that were in the unlimited category in my practice sessions,
That's
right?
actually
Because I
sick.
had no power, but I had speed.
Yeah,
So
that actually
he's like,
sounds fun.
yeah, he's like, you have the power there. We just need to work on it. So I'm gonna put you with these guys, and then you drill all of your like your warm ups and stuff with them. You drill all of like if I was learning a double leg, right? He would be like, all right, you're gonna drill it on these guys, right? And they would have to go at like 30 or 40%. So that way most of their weight would be on me. So I'd build up that back strength, build up that leg muscle.
Hmm.
It's kind of like these guys can hit their shots. So my movement to be able to dodge those shots and get into a better position where now I can hit my shots. These guys aren't actual beamers now. Now they just got lucky because they're standing still or like things like that, right?
Yeah, yeah.
It's the For me it's the experience, and I love the movement, so I want to keep with the movement and just progress as much as I can. Like when you're telling me that I wouldn't like see big improvements, like I might stay stationary for a little bit and not climb rank,
Hmm.
right? Like I'd have to get there, right? When you told me that, I was silver 2 within 2 days. I wasn't thinking about my gameplay. I just thought, I just wanted to keep moving because I want to get to a certain place, right? I want to get my guns and I just want to move, right? And try to, cut out certain areas so that way I can move faster and figure out what I can actually do and push myself to get on a different level. And now, like, even in pubs, my sister's like, "Where'd Demonic go?" And it's like, "Hey, I've already rotated over to staging. Let's go. Where are you
Yeah,
guys at?"
yeah. So
"Oh, we're still looking over here."
this is like the part of the coaching, because people say like, "Oh, your coaching seems really simple. Well, what are you gonna work on?" And then it's like, you just get these random things that happen when you start to improve, like these random new problems that are kind of these new things that pop up. People are gonna start to things are gonna start to new things are gonna pop up, and it's a result of you pushing yourself and the people around you in a healthy way.
Yeah, but definitely the aim stuff. I'm not really like I'm worried about it, but not to the point where it's like consuming my gameplay.
Hmm.
Like, because I don't want to stay stationary and I don't want to stay at the skill level I'm at, right? Because like
Yeah,
I said, I'm very competitive and I just want to go, right? I want to be able to push myself to new heights and see where it takes me, right? I
yeah,
don't want to, like obviously to some people, I'm still going to be trash and that's okay. Like it is what it is. I'm still learning. So if I'm still learning, but you're going to dog on your own teammate for that, what are you learning?
yeah. It's a demonstration that they don't understand matchmaking and like the process of improvement. Like you learn more from being trash than carrying people, you know? So it's like if they throw that out the window and, discredit it, that's up to them. But like if you're a smart player, like dude, it's like it's like you're in a gold mine and some people are mining the fucking rocks. And like, why are you mining that gold, bro? The whole mountain is made of a rock. There's so much rock here, bro. Why are you mining the gold?
Yeah. Yeah, like I mean like
Like
I get
what
staying in
once you
confidence
can
and stuff
shift
like
your
that, but
mentality to see them like that, it's gonna make the toxicity. It's gonna create like a distance between you and the toxicity.
okay. Cuz yeah, even the other day I had a Gibraltar and I think an Octane or something like that on my team. And basically the Octane and the Gibraltar were taking a long time to loot and there's a team coming up. They already were fighting the team. The Gibraltar ended up dying. I ended up grabbing his banner, rezzing him. I think it was like something like 85 meters away from where the fight actually happened. And those guys, they were just thirsty for the kills. You know, you get those guys that just like, oh, it's just one guy. We're just gonna run right after him, even if it's 3/4 of the way across the map. We're still gonna run after him and kill him. So we basically had a team like that on us. I res the Gibraltar, and the Octane was running around pinging things for the Gibraltar to be able to take. And then they sat in a building
Mm-hmm.
while I was getting peppered by the other team. Like they were just trying to hit these shots like crazy. And I was just having a little bit of fun, just kind of ducking around and moving around, right? Just like, oh, these guys aren't really hitting their shots, guys. Like, can you come out here and maybe, give me some backup? And they're, oh yeah, we're just looting, give us a minute, right? And they had a building that had 5 loot boxes in it. Okay, that's great. Like, yeah, just hurry up. So the Octane on the other team ended up patting on me, and I lost that 1v1. I said, sorry guys, like, I lost the 1v1. I had a sniper, and I'm not really good close range with sniper and all that kind of shit, right? So that one's on me. Could you guys come get me? But then they noticed Ring was coming in, so they skirted around me and tried to skirt around the other team. The Octane ended up getting down because he stayed in Ring too long, and the Gibraltar was just like, he's like, I'm so sorry, bro. I can't come get you. Like, that's my bad. I looted for way too long. I said, listen, man, doesn't matter. It's okay. It's already done.
I got
I
something
said,
to I know what to prepare for next time.
okay.
A sneak peek.
Wait. But yeah, I told him, I told the Gibraltar, I said, listen, man, I said, if you can't come get me, it's fine. I said, that's completely okay. I said, just do what you gotta do to get your RP now, okay? So he, healed up and he was just close enough to being outside a ring. He just healed up and he was kind of taking his time, trying to listen for footsteps and stuff. And I just watched his gameplay,
Mhm.
right? And he would just grab extra heals and stuff like that and just keep running. And then I'd say close to next ring, the team caught up with him. And he didn't know what to do. He panicked. So instead of running, he turned around and he tried to take the 3v1, ended up getting down. I said, good game, man. You tried. It is what it is. And he's like, oh, I'm so sorry, guys. I said, don't worry about it, man. Shit happens. But I didn't get mad because how can you get mad at guys that are new players, right?
Yeah, anyone
They
who's
suck at
trying their
being
best in any moment, no matter the result, it's like, dude, what else can you do? And it's a very
like
fundamental, simple thing to understand. And some
yeah,
people just
even
don't
watching
get
his
it.
gameplay. Like even watching his gameplay, I noticed like he was moving really slow because
Hmm.
everybody says Gibraltar's a really slow character because he's beefy, right? And he's got that fortified or whatever, so it makes him slower,
It doesn't
right?
actually make him slower, but
But everybody moves at the same pace, right? Like every legend basically moves at the same pace,
yeah,
but it also depends on how you actually move the character.
yeah,
But I noticed in his gameplay, like he was kind of moseying, kind of slow. There was no slide jumping, no like, no cutting around corners that were unnecessary for him to take.
yeah. It makes them
And
seem lost, and it's a very obvious way to see.
yeah, but I wasn't trashing on his gameplay or nothing like that. But the Octane's like, come get me, like I'm still over here, like you can come get me, you have
Yeah,
time and stuff. And
it's good.
I was like, dude,
Dude,
just
people
let
usually
the
do that
let
because they're desperate. You know, they're like they're freaking out. They're desperate. So it's good that you don't have that. You have that patience. Really good. Good
Well, because I,
quality.
I remember where I came from, right? I remember being that teammate that didn't have the movement, that couldn't go as quick, that I couldn't even keep up to a diamond player,
Hmm.
right? Like it was so hard for me to keep up to a diamond player just because like they knew where to cut so that way the distance seemed shorter, and it was like, how are they moving like a god, right? Now I notice they're not moving like a god, they're just moving smart,
Yeah, yeah. It's just like a
right?
simple adaptation. All right.
Whereas silver players, they think, oh, that guy's moving like a god, he getting the experience in is just, that's it, right? And he didn't
Hmm.
have it, so I wasn't going to trash on him for it.
Yeah. And then when you see people with trash on people, it's like they just don't know. It makes you realize that at the they're the ignorant ones. All right. So here, I think it's very simple for you. Your goals from this session. I'm surprised we even. I mean, it seems like you were doing everything perfectly, and like things seem to be clicking with you the way you describe them and stuff. But so with the aim thing, simple. Just don't sacrifice things that are more important than aim. Just prio your gameplay. Focus on the game. Just remember this. It doesn't seem like it's a big problem, but it's just something to sort of like keep touch on every once in a while, and it's not gonna take priority over your other goals. It's just gonna be something that's gonna you're gonna remember it when if you ever freak out about your aim ever. It's probably gonna ring in your head. You're gonna remember. Yeah, basically just don't shame yourself for missing. Prioritize the game, and because if you sacrifice the complexity of your gameplay, which is what your aim depends on to get better, it's a lose lose. So um, simple little reminder there. With toxic teammates, I think this is the one thing where you can actually make like a shift. Basically, the whole idea is, I don't want to read it out, but the whole idea is toxic teammates are just very ignorant and they don't understand the process. They don't understand what it actually means to challenge yourself and improve, and they don't know the value of challenging yourself. And so when someone's in an environment that's more challenging for them than somebody else, they're having a more valuable experience. And for somebody to flame you for that, it's like they're getting mad. It's like the gold mining analogy. They're getting mad at you for mining gold. It's just really bizarre behavior. And once you realize that and it starts to kind of sink in, you'll get sort of like an untouchable sort of edge, I guess. It's probably never going to be perfect, but like it'll build and sort of be like a good certainty that you don't need to worry about those idiots like just being toxic for no reason. And that you can understand why they're being toxic. I think that's the big thing is like when people are toxic or when anyone does anything bad, I think the very big thing is just understanding them. Usually people will be toxic back or whatever. But if you actually understand the other person, you don't have to be mad at them for being toxic cuz like there's a good reason they're toxic. Um people aren't perfect and like they have a lack of understanding that makes it feel like what they're doing is right. And so if you can understand them, you don't even need to be mad at them, and what they say doesn't need to affect you.
Okay.
So but I think that's like perfect for this session. Like everything that you said seems really good, except for these small things. And then the awareness of them is really good. So let me
Okay.
turn off display capture and then send you the file because I think it's good how it is. And then yeah, those are gonna be like nets. They're not necessarily going to be goals. They're gonna be more like nets where you're going to encounter a problem and it's gonna help you solve it. But it's not gonna be something you encounter every game or something you need to remind yourself of. It's just gonna be something like you encounter a toxic teammate and like maybe you'll want to revisit the text file to sort of like get a full grasp on everything. But overall, you're basically going to understand the gist of it and like you're going to be able to deal with it and
Okay.
and move on really easily. Same thing with the aim thing. It's not going to be something you tell yourself every time you start shooting. It's just a natural process, and we're just working on the way that you like react to that natural process. Make sure it doesn't, like swerve off into something unhealthy. Because everything
Okay.
you're gonna be doing is gonna be independent. It's gonna be natural. So we're just gonna make sure it stays that way. Um, but yeah, I mean that's everything. Do you have any questions?
No, I don't think I have any questions.
All right.
I think we touched on everything pretty good.
Okay. Feel free to message if anything comes to your mind,
Okay, awesome. We'll do.
and have fun.
All right, thanks, man.
Peace.
Definitely will. Have a good one.
Cool.